The courtroom was nearly empty. A Tuesday afternoon in Chatham County, small cases, bored lawyers, a judge who kept checking his watch. The kind of day where nothing interesting ever happened. Terrence Williams sat in the back row of the gallery, wearing civilian clothes, dark jeans, a plain black button-down shirt, nothing that would attract attention. He was here as a character witness for a friend, a fellow veteran named Derek Cole, who had been accused of assault after defending himself from a drunk outside a bar. TJ had known Derek for 15 years. They had served together in Afghanistan, Iraq, and a dozen other places that didn't appear on any map. Derek wasn't a violent man. He was a hero, Bronze Star, 2 Purple Hearts, a man who had saved lives. But Derek was also black, and in Savannah, Georgia, that meant the system didn't always see him the same way. TJ planned to testify, tell the truth, and go home. Simple. It didn't stay simple. The deputy sheriff at the door had been watching him since he walked in. Randy Dawson was 52 years old, 30 years on the force, the kind of man who peaked in high school and never got over it. He had a belly that strained against his uniform, a face that looked like it was made for sneering, and eyes that tracked every black person who entered his courthouse. He had been watching TJ for an hour. When the judge called a recess, TJ stood to stretch his legs. That was his mistake. "Hey, you!" TJ turned. Deputy Dawson was walking toward him, hand on his belt. "Me?" "Yeah, you. The only one standing." Dawson stopped 3 feet away, looking TJ up and down. "What are you doing here?" "I'm a witness for the defense." "A witness?" Dawson's lip curled. "You got ID?" "I showed it at the door." "Show it again." TJ felt the familiar tension in his chest, the one every black man in America learns to carry. The awareness that any moment, any interaction can turn dangerous, that the rules are different for you. He reached slowly for his wallet. "Slowly," Dawson snapped. "I see any sudden moves, we're going to have a problem." TJ pulled out his wallet and handed over his driver's license. Dawson studied it like it was written in a foreign language. Terrence Williams, Virginia Beach. He looked up. "Long way from home." "I'm here for my friend." "Your friend the criminal?" "My friend the veteran, who served his country with honor." Something flickered in Dawson's eyes. He didn't like the tone. Didn't like a black man speaking to him like an equal. "You got an attitude problem, boy." TJ's jaw tightened, but he kept his voice level. "I'm 41 years old. I'm not a boy." "You're whatever I say you are in this courthouse." Dawson stepped closer. "Now I'm going to need you to step outside for additional screening. Random security check." "There was no random screening when I came in." "There is now." TJ looked around the courtroom. Everyone was watching. Lawyers, clerks, the few spectators. No one said anything. No one moved. "Deputy, I'm not going anywhere. I'm here as a witness. I have a legal right to be in this courtroom." "You have the rights I give you." Dawson grabbed TJ's arm. "Now move." And that's when TJ made a decision. He could resist. He could show Dawson exactly what 18 years of SEAL training had taught him. He could put this man on the ground in 2 seconds and walk out untouched. But he didn't. Because TJ knew that a black man fighting a white cop in a Georgia courthouse, even in self-defense, would only end one way. So he let Dawson drag him toward the door. He let Dawson shove him into the hallway. And when Dawson slammed him against the wall and drove a knee into his back, TJ didn't fight. He reached for his phone instead. "What the hell are you doing?" Dawson yanked TJ's arm behind his back. "Drop it." "I'm making a phone call." TJ's voice was calm, eerily calm. "I'm entitled to one phone call. That's the law." "You're not under arrest." "Then let me go." Dawson hesitated. He hadn't thought this through. He had expected TJ to resist, to give him an excuse. But this quiet compliance, this deliberate calm, was unnerving. "Who are you calling?" "A friend." TJ pressed a button. The phone rang once, twice. Then a voice answered, a voice that carried the weight of 30 years in naval special warfare. "TJ, this better be important. I'm in a meeting with the Joint Chiefs." "Admiral Richardson." TJ's voice was loud enough for Dawson to hear. I'm at Chatham County Courthouse in Savannah. A deputy sheriff has assaulted me in the hallway. He's currently got me against a wall with his knee in my back. Silence on the line. Then, is this the senior chief Terrence Williams I decorated last month for saving 17 lives in Yemen? Yes, sir. The same senior chief who has 3 silver stars, 5 bronze stars, and more combat deployments than most men have hot dinners? Yes, sir. Put the deputy on the phone. TJ turned his head slightly. He wants to talk to you. Dawson's face had gone from red to white. Who? Who is that? Admiral James Richardson, Commander of Naval Special Warfare. He reports directly to the Secretary of the Navy, who reports to the Secretary of Defense, who reports to the President of the United States. TJ smiled. Would you like to explain to him why you're assaulting a decorated Navy SEAL in a courthouse hallway? Terrence Williams grew up in Baltimore. Not the Baltimore of waterfront condos and tourist attractions, the other Baltimore. The one with boarded-up row houses and corner boys and the constant background noise of sirens and gunshots. His father died when he was 7, drive-by shooting, wrong place, wrong time. His mother worked 2 jobs to keep them off the streets. She would come home at midnight, exhausted, and still find time to check his homework, to tell him he was meant for more than this. You're going to be somebody, Terrence. Don't let anyone tell you different. TJ believed her. He studied hard, stayed out of trouble, and graduated high school with a scholarship to Morgan State. But college felt too slow, too safe. He wanted to do something that mattered. He wanted to serve. At 22, Terrence Williams walked into a Navy recruiting office and said 5 words that would change his life. I want to be a SEAL. The recruiter laughed. Most people who said that couldn't do 5 push-ups. TJ did 50, then asked what else they wanted to see. BUD/S and beyond. Basic underwater demolition/SEAL training is designed to break people. Of the 180 men who started class 247, only 31 graduated. TJ was one of them. He was also the only black man in his class. That meant he had to be better, faster, stronger. He had to prove himself every single day to men who looked at his skin and saw a question mark instead of a teammate. By the end of Hell Week, they didn't see his skin anymore. They saw a brother. TJ served 18 years, 6 deployments to Afghanistan, 4 to Iraq, missions in Syria, Yemen, Somalia, and places that would never appear in any newspaper. He earned 3 silver stars for gallantry in action, 5 bronze stars, 2 purple hearts. He had saved lives, taken lives, and watched men he loved die in his arms. He had given everything to his country. And now a deputy sheriff with a beer gut and a badge was slamming him against a wall because he didn't like the way TJ looked at him. Why was TJ in court? Derek Cole was TJ's brother, not by blood, but by bond. They had met during their first deployment, 2 young black SEALs trying to prove themselves in a world that didn't always want them. They had watched each other's backs through firefights and funerals and everything in between. When Derek retired after 12 years, he struggled. The transition to civilian life was brutal. No structure, no mission, no brotherhood. He started drinking. Not much at first, then more. 3 months ago, Derek was at a bar in Savannah when a drunk white man started shouting slurs at him. Derek ignored it. He walked to his car. The man followed, swinging a bottle. Derek defended himself. 1 punch, clean, controlled, exactly what the Navy had trained him to do. The drunk went down with a broken nose. The cops arrived. They arrested Derek. Not the man who had attacked him. Not the man who had shouted racial slurs. Just Derek, the black veteran who had the audacity to defend himself. The charges were assault and battery, felony level. The drunk's father was a city councilman. Derek couldn't afford a real lawyer. His public defender had 40 cases in no time. So TJ flew down from Virginia Beach. He would testify to Derek's character. He would tell the court about the man who had saved lives, who had bled for his country, who had never started a fight in his life. He never expected to become a victim himself. The phone call continues. Admiral James Richardson's voice came through the phone like thunder. Deputy, I don't know who you are, but I know what you've done. You have assaulted a senior chief petty officer with 18 years of distinguished service. You have violated his civil rights. You have committed a federal crime. Dawson's hand was still on TJ's back, but his grip had loosened. Sir, I was conducting a security check. He was acting suspicious. He was sitting in a courtroom as a witness for a decorated veteran. I didn't know. You didn't ask. The Admiral's voice was ice. You saw a black man and decided he didn't belong. You decided to teach him a lesson. You thought no one would care. Dawson was sweating now. Sir, with all due respect, this is a local matter. With all due respect, Deputy, nothing about Senior Chief Williams is local. He holds a top-secret security clearance. He has provided testimony to Congress. He has personally briefed the Secretary of Defense. A pause. And right now, I'm sitting in a room with 4 members of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, all of whom are listening to this call on speaker. They would like to know if the Deputy Sheriff of Chatham County makes a habit of assaulting decorated war heroes. The color drained from Dawson's face. I didn't know. You didn't care. Admiral Richardson's voice hardened. Take your hands off my seal, now. Dawson released TJ like he was on fire. TJ straightened his shirt, picked up his phone, and turned to face the deputy. You just assaulted a senior chief with 18 years of service, 3 silver stars, and a direct line to the Pentagon. TJ's voice was quiet, almost conversational. That call you heard, that was your career ending. Dawson stumbled backward. I'll report you for threatening an officer. You'll report nothing. A new voice from the courtroom door. Judge Henry Crawford stood in the doorway, his face the color of old cheese. Judge Crawford. Admiral Richardson's voice was audible through the phone. I was hoping you'd join us. I understand you run a very interesting courtroom. We should discuss it. The judge's eyes went wide. Admiral, I don't know what Deputy Dawson has told you, but he hasn't told me anything. But the security cameras have. Everyone froze. Chatham County Courthouse has security cameras in all hallways. Federal facilities are required to preserve footage for 90 days. The Admiral's voice was almost cheerful. I've already requested a copy. It should be very educational for the Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice. Word had spread. Lawyers, clerks, bailiffs. Everyone had filtered into the hallway. They stood in clusters, watching the impossible scene unfold. A deputy sheriff, sweating and pale, backed against the wall he had just slammed a man into. A judge, powerful in his own domain, looking like a child caught stealing. And in the center, a black man in civilian clothes, holding a phone to his ear, radiating a quiet authority that had nothing to do with badges or robes. Admiral, TJ said, I appreciate the call, but I'd like to handle the rest myself. A pause, then a low chuckle. I would expect nothing less, Senior Chief, but TJ... Sir? Don't hold back. The call ended. TJ slipped his phone into his pocket and looked at Deputy Dawson. In March 2019, TJ said calmly, I spent 72 hours in a Taliban prison. They beat me. They waterboarded me. They told me they would kill me slowly if I didn't give up my team. He took a step forward. Dawson took a step back. I didn't say a word, not because I'm brave, because I knew my brothers would come for me, and they did. 14 hours later, 6 SEALs hit that compound. They killed 19 enemy combatants and carried me out on their backs. Another step, Dawson hit the wall. You put your knee in my back and called me boy. You thought you could do whatever you wanted because you had a badge, and I had the wrong skin color. TJ leaned in close. I've faced men who wanted to cut my head off on camera. You think you scare me? You think any of this scares me? Dawson was trembling. I was just doing my job. Your job is to protect people, all people, not to assault them because they're black. TJ stepped back. I'm not going to hit you, Deputy. I'm not going to give you the excuse you wanted, but I am going to make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of man you are. He turned to face the crowd. My name is Senior Chief Terrence Williams. I've served this country for 18 years. I have bled for it. I have killed for it. I have watched my brothers die for it. His voice rose. And I came to this courthouse to testify for a friend. A man who served alongside me, who saved lives, who was attacked by a drunk in a parking lot and defended himself. That's all he did. And this system, your system, decided to destroy him for it. He pointed at Dawson. And when I showed up to help him, this man, this sworn officer of the law, decided I didn't belong, decided to put his hands on me, decided that my service, my sacrifice, my entire life meant nothing because of the color of my skin. TJ looked at Judge Crawford. Your Honor, I understand this is your courtroom, your county, your rules, but I'm going to make you a promise right now. The judge swallowed. If my friend Derek Cole doesn't get a fair trial, if this system railroads another black veteran, I will burn it all down. I will call every news network. I will testify before Congress. I will make sure that Chatham County becomes a national symbol of everything that's wrong with American justice. He let that sit. Or you can do the right thing. Today, right now, you can dismiss the charges against a man who did nothing wrong. You can investigate the deputy who assaulted me. You can prove that this courthouse is about justice, not just power. TJ spread his hands. Your choice, Your Honor. What's it going to be? The silence lasted 10 seconds. It felt like 10 years. Judge Crawford looked at Deputy Dawson, sweating, shaking, ruined. He looked at the cameras in the hallway ceiling, blinking red. He looked at the crowd of witnesses who would talk about this day for the rest of their lives, and he made a calculation. Deputy Dawson, the judge said, his voice tight, you are relieved of duty pending a full investigation. Surrender your weapon and badge to Sergeant Miller. Dawson's face crumpled. Your Honor, Henry, you can't. I can, and I am. Crawford's voice was cold. You've embarrassed this courthouse. You've embarrassed this county. And frankly, Randy, you've been a liability for years. This is just the excuse I needed. Dawson looked around for support. No one met his eyes. Sergeant Miller stepped forward and held out his hand. Dawson, his fingers shaking, unclipped his badge and handed over his service weapon. Just like that, 30 years on the force ended in a courthouse hallway. Judge Crawford turned to TJ. Senior Chief Williams, I owe you an apology. What happened here was unacceptable. It does not reflect the values of this courthouse or this county. With respect, Your Honor, I think it reflects them perfectly. Crawford's eye twitched, but he kept his composure. What would you like me to do? I told you, dismiss the charges against Derek Cole. He defended himself from an attack. The only crime committed that night was the assault against him. The victim's father is a city councilman. The victim started the fight. Witnesses will confirm this. Security footage will confirm this. The only reason Derek was arrested is because he's black and the other man is white and connected. TJ stepped closer to the judge. You know I'm right. Everyone in this building knows I'm right. The question is whether you have the courage to do something about it. Crawford was silent for a long moment. Then he turned to his clerk. Bring me the Cole file. 15 minutes later, in a courtroom that was now packed with spectators, Judge Crawford made his ruling. In the matter of the state of Georgia versus Derek Cole, the court finds that the charges of assault and battery are not supported by the evidence. The defendant was attacked without provocation and responded with reasonable force in self-defense. He banged his gavel. All charges are dismissed. Mr. Cole, you are free to go. Derek Cole, 40 years old, 2 Purple Hearts, a man who had almost lost everything, stood up from the defendant's table. He looked at the judge. He looked at the prosecutor. He looked at the crowd. Then he looked at TJ, and he smiled. Outside the courthouse, Derek grabbed TJ in a bear hug. Brother, I don't know how to thank you. Don't thank me. Just stay out of bars. They both laughed. The kind of laugh that only comes after you've survived something you weren't sure you'd survive. What you did in there, Derek said, pulling back. The phone call, the speech. That was me doing what you would have done for me. I don't have an admiral on speed dial. No, but you have me. TJ put his hand on Derek's shoulder. That's enough. A reporter approached, young, eager, smartphone already recording. Senior Chief Williams, can you comment on what happened today? TJ looked at the camera. What happened today is what happens every day in courthouses across this country. Black men and women treated like criminals for the crime of existing. Veterans who served their country with honor, prosecuted for defending themselves. He paused. I was lucky. I have rank. I have connections. I have a phone number that changes conversations. Most people don't have that. Most people have to hope that the system will be fair. And too often, it isn't. What do you want people to take away from this? TJ thought for a moment. That justice isn't something that just happens. It's something you have to fight for, every day, for yourself and for everyone around you. He looked back at the courthouse, and that sometimes one phone call is all it takes to remind powerful people that they're not as powerful as they think. 3 weeks later, federal court, Deputy Randy Dawson sat at the defendant's table. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. The charges were serious: assault, civil rights violations, deprivation of rights under color of law, federal charges that carried federal time. The evidence was overwhelming. Security footage showed Dawson grabbing TJ without provocation. Audio from TJ's phone, which had been recording since the confrontation began, captured every slur, every threat, every moment of the assault. And that wasn't all. Once the investigation began, other victims came forward. Marcus Thompson, arrested in 2019 for trespassing in a courtroom where he was a licensed attorney. Janice Williams, detained in 2021 for suspicious behavior while she waited for her sister's custody hearing. Terrell Jackson, 14 years old, handcuffed in 2022 for looking like a suspect while visiting his father's trial. All black, all innocent, all humiliated by Deputy Randy Dawson. The pattern was undeniable. TJ testified at the trial. He wore his dress uniform, navy dress blues, medals gleaming, seal trident catching the light. He looked like what he was, a warrior who had earned every ribbon on his chest. Senior Chief Williams, the prosecutor asked, can you describe what happened on the afternoon of October 14th? TJ described it: the courtroom, the stairs, the demand for ID, the assault in the hallway. And when Deputy Dawson had you against the wall, what were you thinking? TJ was quiet for a moment. I was thinking about all the black men who didn't have a phone number to call. All the men who were in that same position and didn't have a way out. All the men who resisted because they were scared, because they were angry, because they're human, and ended up dead or in prison because of it. He looked at Dawson. I was thinking that I had a chance to survive this, and that maybe if I did it right, I could make sure it didn't happen to anyone else. Is that why you called Admiral Richardson? I called the Admiral because I knew the system wouldn't police itself. I knew that if I complained through normal channels, it would disappear. It would get buried like all the other complaints. TJ's voice hardened. The only way to get justice was to go over their heads, to make it impossible to ignore, to bring enough pressure that doing the right thing became easier than doing the wrong thing. And do you believe justice has been served? TJ looked at the jury. 12 citizens, diverse backgrounds, all watching him intently. Not yet. Justice will be served when Deputy Dawson faces consequences for what he did. And when every other officer in this country understands that assaulting someone because of their skin color will not be tolerated. He paused. Justice isn't just about punishment. It's about prevention. It's about making sure no one else has to stand in that hallway wondering if they're going to survive the next 5 minutes. The jury deliberated for 3 hours, guilty on all counts. Deputy Randy Dawson was sentenced to 5 years in federal prison. He cried when they led him away in handcuffs. No one felt sorry for him. The ceremony was small. Senior Chief Terrence Williams stood at attention as Admiral Richardson pinned a new medal to his chest, the Navy and Marine Corps Commendation Medal, awarded for exceptional courage and composure under hostile conditions while upholding the highest traditions of naval service. The citation didn't mention Savannah or Dawson or any of it directly. It didn't have to. Everyone knew. Senior Chief, the Admiral said quietly, I've given out a lot of medals. This is the first one I've given for winning a battle without throwing a punch. Thank you, sir. How's Derek doing? Better, sir. He's in counseling. Got a job at the VA, helping other veterans transition. He's going to be okay. And you? TJ considered the question. I'm angry, sir. I've been angry for a long time. But I'm also hopeful. What happened in that courthouse? It changed things. Not everywhere, not for everyone, but for some people in some places, it made a difference. That's all any of us can do, make a difference where we can. Yes, sir. The Admiral shook his hand. Dismissed, Senior Chief. Go enjoy some leave. You've earned it. 1 week later, Baltimore, Maryland. TJ stood in front of his mother's house. It was the same row house he had grown up in. Small, worn, but clean. His mother had never left. She said the neighborhood needed people who stayed. She was on the porch waiting for him. Terrence. She walked down the steps and pulled him into a hug. I saw you on the news. I saw what you did. Mama. Don't you mama me. You went up against a whole courthouse. You could have been hurt. You could have been killed. I know. She pulled back and looked at him. Really looked. The way only a mother can. Your father would have been proud. TJ felt his eyes burn. You think so? I know so. He always said you were going to be somebody. Somebody who stood up when everyone else sat down. She touched his face. He was right. They stood together on the porch, looking out at the neighborhood. The same streets where TJ had grown up, the same corners where his father had died, the same world that had given him so little and asked so much. I'm going to keep fighting, Mama. I know you are. Not with guns, not with fists, with my voice, with my story. His mother smiled. That's the strongest weapon there is, baby. The truth always is. 3 months later, U.S. Congress. Senior Chief Terrence Williams sat at a table in front of the House Judiciary Committee. Cameras flashed. Reporters whispered. The room was packed with spectators who had waited hours for a seat. Senior Chief Williams, the committee chair said, thank you for being here today. Your testimony will inform our consideration of the Justice in Policing Act. Please, in your own words, tell us what happened. TJ leaned into the microphone. I've served this country for 18 years. I've been shot at in Afghanistan, bombed in Iraq, tortured in Syria. I've faced enemies who wanted me dead because of the flag on my shoulder. He paused. But the moment I felt most afraid in my life wasn't in a war zone. It was in a courthouse in Savannah, Georgia, when a man with a badge decided that my skin color made me a criminal. The room was silent. I survived because I had resources most people don't have. A phone number, a rank, a story that was too big to ignore. But what about everyone else? What about the Marcus Thompsons and the Terrell Jacksons? What about the 14-year-old boys who get handcuffed for visiting their fathers? He looked at the committee members. I'm not here to attack police officers. I've worked alongside law enforcement my entire career. Most of them are good people doing hard jobs. But the bad ones, the ones who abuse their power, who target people because of their race, they have to be held accountable. Because if they're not, then the badge becomes a weapon, and no one is safe. The chair nodded. Senior Chief, what would you say to young black men and women who feel like the system is stacked against them? TJ thought about the question. I'd say, don't give up. Don't let anyone tell you that you don't belong in a courtroom, in a boardroom, in the military, anywhere. You have as much right to be in those spaces as anyone else. He leaned forward. And I'd say, find your voice. Use it. One voice can change a conversation. One phone call can change a career. One testimony can change a law. He smiled. Never underestimate the power of speaking up. It's the most powerful weapon you'll ever have. The story of Terrence Williams isn't about a phone call. It's about what the phone call represents. The power of connection, the importance of allies, and the courage to speak up when everything tells you to stay silent. Deputy Randy Dawson assaulted TJ because he thought TJ was alone. He thought he could do whatever he wanted because no one was watching, no one would believe a black man over a white officer, and no one would care. He was wrong. TJ wasn't alone. He had 18 years of service. He had brothers who would go to war for him. He had an admiral who answered on the first ring. He had a story that the world needed to hear. But here's the thing. You don't need 3 silver stars or a direct line to the Pentagon to make a difference. You need witnesses. You need people who will stand with you when the system tries to crush you. You need the courage to document, to record, to speak up. And you need to be that witness for others. When you see injustice, don't look away. When someone is being mistreated, don't stay silent. When the powerful abuse the powerless, don't assume someone else will handle it. Be the phone call. Be the ally. Be the voice. Because justice isn't something that just happens. It's something we make. Together. Deputy Randy Dawson thought one black man in a courthouse was an easy target. He didn't know that one black man had the power to end his career, free an innocent veteran, and change the national conversation about police accountability. One man, one phone call, one voice. That's all it takes. What will you do with yours? If this story moved you, hit that like button. It helps us share these stories with people who need to hear them. And here's a question for the comments. Have you ever witnessed injustice and spoken up, or wished you had? What happened? I read every single response. If you're not subscribed yet, now's the time. Hit that button and ring the bell. Next week, we're telling the story of a janitor who everyone ignored until the day the building caught fire and they discovered who he really was. You don't want to miss it.